Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Now we also have an int layer, and this is where you are get cast. Yes, this is created. And all those the request and response parameters that we have added. This is your request parameter. What is it? It is customer identifier. It's the request parameter for your connector, which is of the type text, whereas here, if you observe, your query, yes, the customer identifier. And what about response? If you see all these things that I've added for the student data type. Sorry, the customer data type. CID, age, address, date of birth. All of these have been created as part of the mega data class. These are my query string parameters and what is there on getCustomer. I've page data, where again I see all these details corresponding to the customer data type. And how are these created? Because you have given a service REST sample for it, saying that this is how my response would be. And accordingly, the system has generated the response parameters. The request parameters as CID that you have given as part of the wizard, the second screen that you have given. I got the customer identifier. Then what is there on the data class? Let's see. FZ get cost. On the organizational level data class, you see get cost. A D page is created. D underscore get customer. And what do you see? There is a connect REST called getCustomer which is created. The connector that we have created, a source to a particular D page and the request and response data transforms are also configured. Here you will see the identifier, the CID. Yes, this is for setting in the customer identifier on the request parameter, whereas the outcome is for mapping the response. What is being mapped? The values from the response. We will be able to see this particular source. And what is the source? What is the type of it? Let's get customer, and this is going to be a response parameter. Once you expand this, and if you remember, this is the data. The page data is what we have seen. Each of that is being mapped onto this particular data transfer. You see all the CID address. Both the request and response parameters are there in my D page, and the source is going to be your connect. And again, I'll be able to see the data transforms in here, and all the properties are created in here. I mean, the system has created all of this for me. I've just run through the wizard and I got here. Everything seems good. Maybe I'll go ahead and I can close this. Now, where can I see the instance? I would like to have a look at the instances of all the connectors. Where can I see that? And yes, all these connectors are supported. Let's see connect rest that I've just created. Yes, get customer. Let's have a look directly on the connect rest rule. Still voting. What do you want? The one. Yes, this is how the connectors that we have created get customer looks like. The one obvious thing is going to be the endpoint to RL. Onto which URL should I get using my connectors? Then you have a lot of other features on to the connector where things related to connection timeouts. I mean or no, then you might have things related to error handling. What if something went wrong or things related to simulation? A lot of things are available on the connector. And yes, here are your methods. The get method, the request customer identifier which we have given. Where is it mapped? Because this is also a PEGA application. To understand that the connector is also created on a PEGA application only. You'll see that again. Clipboard. Where is it mapped from? The user enters something or somewhere in the case cycle, be it your work class or somewhere, the data is provided onto the clipboard and that is mapped. From where? From your request. Query customer identifier. From this particular value, we are mapping in the data, and this is from the clipboard, whereas the response. Where does the response come from? Once your request here is submitted, this goes to the service. And on the service, you see, it is mapped to the clipboard of the second application. It is mapped to a particular key. Then your service activity is invoked and then comes the response. There's your response in it is from the clipboard to the customer data. From here it goes back to the connector again. And here it will be tracked as the response. And where is it coming from? It is mapped to a particular XML file. And this is where your response is going to you are correlating the entire transition of data, like from the connector to the service, and data manipulation or business logic happens. Then from the service back to the connector. Can you explain this part again? I got confused in between. First, your initiation of this integration happens from the connector. The first thing would start from the connector. Connector first invoked. I need to send in some data to the connector first. And where is that happening? It is mapping from the clipboard and on one of the property. Just like we had CID earlier, this is one of the property. Assume it like that. Now from here, where does the control go? It goes and invokes the service, which means another application. Completely understand it as a different application. And on the service, what is happening? The request that is coming from the connector. That request is mapped onto your PG application to a property called CID. And where is it? On the clipboard. Then your service activity is invoked. All the business logic is performed. Then your output is on the response of the service here, which is on the clipboard. It is on customer data. Agree. Now this has to be sent to the connector again as a response. Yes, then your customer's response comes in here. The response that you got from the service REST is mapped to this particular property on the connector related application. Just PEGA data and it is on the response back. The transition of data happens. Connector service, business logic, then service and again connector. I'll put it this way. Let me just put it in the notepad. First thing, what happens is from the connector, your request parameter would come. Then your service would be invoked and the request parameters are mapped. Then your actual service activity, which is your business logic or whatever that would be executed. Then the data should be mapped from where? From the service response. And then finally it goes to the connect. Now is it better? You understood the life cycle, how the data is structured. We can have this connector used across multiple places. I can use it. I can invoke this from an activity or I can invoke this from a data page, depending upon how you would like to use it. And how can I do it on the activity? I have a method called. In fact, there are a lot of methods related to the activities. We have methods specific to the connect related. You see, all of these methods are relating to calling your connectors from an activity. Again, call a connect REST. Make sure the parameters are given. You see, what is your service name? What is your endpoint? URL? What is the method? And what is the execution mode that you are looking at? This will enable you to call a connect REST from an activity. Likewise, you can also call it from a D page. We have a couple of D pages, isn't it? Nothing specific to customer. Here I would be able to add a connector. Here I have the get customer, which I can use as a source for one of my data topics. Make sure your request and response parameters are mapped correctly. Just like we have seen on the earlier page that is explicitly created for this purpose. We have seen using these two, exposing your application as a service or invoking a service from your application as a connector. Both are handled in two different applications, ideally. That's all about the connectors. Are we good with this? Any question? No questions for now. But we have discussed the creation of service and we have also discussed the creation of the connectors. But assume they are handled by two different separate applications. They are handled by two different development teams and they are still in progress. But how do I test whether they are working or not? Suppose I started building a service. The connector is still in progress. It's still not complete. But I would like to test my service. How would I do it? Or maybe vice versa. My connector is ready. My service is not yet ready. I would like to test my connector. Then how would I approach? That's when we go for simulating the integration data. There are certain options that we can choose when the corresponding ones are not available. Maybe I'm building a connector but service is not available, or I'm building a service but connector is not ready. We would talk about simulating the integration data. There are three quick ways of how you can simulate the data here. One is you can simulate a D page directly, for example. Simulating a D page. Let's assume this is your D page where you are looking at a connector to source this D page. But the connector is not ready, or probably the service is not up and running or whatever. Through this, I am not able to retrieve any data for now. What can I do is I can simulate my data source. You can use these options for simulation. It could be a data transform, could be a lookup, a report, definition, or an activity. If it's a data transform, I can add in some simulation data and I can work on it. If it's an activity, maybe I can try to reach out to any other connectors, or if that is also not available, I can set up some data on the activity. Can I simulate a data source? You're simulating a D page here on this context. Now here if you observe, I have different data sources available. You observe this. It says simulate data source, but I've got a couple of data sources already available. One is PEGA and one is robotics. Let's see what do we have in it. This is just a data source that is built on the PEGA tag directly, and I can use it for the simulation. In fact, I can create my own data source also. You can create my own data source. Data source is nothing like a system. You can have your sample data and all of it. If you see it, it doesn't consist of any data. If you see, the name just says it is an integration system called the sample, but it doesn't consist of any data as such. How do I see what is involved in this? I can go to configure, go to data model. There's an option called view external data entities. Here you can see how each of your page is sourced. Here you see, there's a customer data type where I have 3 data pages. What is the source? Source is PEGA currently. Here is your legend, where you can see is there any simulated data here. And what is the source of it? Is it lookup? Is it report? Is it connector activity? You get to see this. For each of the data page, you see the data is available. Likewise, if you are trying to simulate it using a sample or something, you will see the source system as sample. And yes, all these data pages, be it your single list or say you can see what is it sourced from. This sample, we don't have any data. Correct. On sample, we did not have any as such. Then how it will take? For example, if we save the sample one and we come here and we look into it. Don't get the? Let's see that sample has to be added, and you should also make sure add a. What is the customer data? Sample DT has to be created because that's what I'm simulating here. If you observe, it's part of the data as customer. Here I'll be able to set in my direct punch. Likewise, I can add in all the ones required for this particular simulation. This is for a single record. Only one entity should be fine. Go back to my page. Yes, here is my sample DT. And where is it pointing to sample system? Let me save it. I think this is not saved yet. Now sample system is created. Yes, I will see this now. If I look at the external data entities, now let's refresh. Yes, I've just saved this sample. Then I went back to the D page and I used the sample that I've just created, saved it. Then I look at my external entities. Let me refresh. I see sample. And you see the data page called a single instance of customer is being associated using a simulated data source. Whereas the rest are all part of the Tiger data source. Data source is not, it's just an entity. It doesn't have any logic or anything inside it. Just an entity. Now you see that this is coming from the simulated data source and that too from a data transfer. Sample day. Probably the easiest approach of simulating your connector is from the data source. Here, what I did is, instead of a connector I simulated the data source in time because my connector is not or my service is not. My connector is not ready. Whatever reasons, I have simulated my D page directly. The other way is suppose your connector is ready, but your service is not yet up and running. In that case, I can directly simulate my connector also. Connectors. There are a lot of connectors available on the system by default. On this screen, you can see all the data related to the connectors. And even the one that we have just created would also be available. These are all the existing connectors and rest. I have 63. And for each of the connectors, you get to see the name of it, the number of simulations associated with it. What about the one we just created? We will get customer. I think it's looking from the class. Our class is what? Probably towards the end. Here it is. Get customer and currently 0 simulation, no simulations on this. And what if I would like to add simulation? How do I do it? You can see the simulations on the end. Currently, no simulations were defined. But if I would like to define a simulation, I click on this. Again, an activity is being used. I can use an activity to simulate the data that is coming to your connector. You can define an activity. And we'll talk about the scopes also. But just let's create an activity first. And where should I create it? Obviously in the class that I have the connector. Where is it? This is the class. ITCOST. Where is my activity created? And here, just like what we did in the data transform, similarly I can set in some data, some property set, or depending upon the kind of data that you're handling. Here, what you get is the request and the response. Ideally, both of them has to be mapped by us only, just like writing your test case. You give the assumptions. You give the assertions and you decide what if it goes or what if it goes wrong. Everything is provided by us. Both have to be defined by us. Your query request parameter is one-on-one. What about the response? You can also set the response. Activity is available. Simulation activity. Let me go back. Close view of this. If it doesn't appear, just we can add it. And you can sign a restriction for your simulation activity. Is it on the global or you would like just for the user session? Global, as in it would be applicable for all the users of your application, whereas user session is specific to your request session. Let us save this. The first way is we simulated a data source. Now the second way is we simulated the connector. Yes, now you have a connector and you can also see here number of simulations. One active session simulation is there. There are no global simulations. You can also test the connectivity. You see the status says good. And we did not give any response data, but request data is given, but we do not give any response data far. It just says data as customer, but nothing on the data. But if you would have mentioned the response parameters also, you will see the same data available on the same data when you test the connectivity of your connector. It's just that both are given by us, both the request and response. what we have seen as first. Part of the simulation. First thing is, we have simulated the data source or the data page using simulated data page. The second one we have done is we have simulated a connector using simulation activity. Here the activity is the core. Because we have done the simulation through the activity itself. That this is data source. Then these two hold good if I am dealing with the connector side. If I am dealing with the connector related application, these two hold good. But what if I am dealing with the service application? My service is ready. Then, or I'm dealing with the service application, then how would I simulate it? Then you can simulate your service using the integrator activity. For example, the core here on your application is your service. Yes, your service activity. What if I don't have this or my service is not yet up and running? What can I do? Yes, I can simulate a service activity. Here, this might not have the actual data or it might not have the actual business logic, but I can just simulate it just like how I did on the simulation activity. Similarly, I can simulate a service activity and I can check the service whether it's running or not. I mean different ways on how you would like to simulate your data. Your service activity, or you can call in the integrator. Wherever you don't have any data, you can always go ahead and simulate it. It could be a data page, it could be a connector, or it could be in the service directory. If it's a data page, I can simulate the data source instead of a connector. If it's a connector, I can add in a simulation activity if I don't have the actual data. And then finally, if my service activity is not defined yet, I can write a simulation for it also. These are the different ways you can simulate your data on the integration aspects, be it on the service side or be it on the connector side. We have this simulation part. The data page one is very much clear. The second connector one, I'll try this one. Maybe tomorrow when we will revise. The same logic that you follow in the connector, I can follow it on the service activity. Probably my business logic is not yet ready or it's not working. I can create a simulation activity and I can now add some sample data. I can see how my application or how my service is run. Just that, simulation is always about mimicking the actual environment. It's not the actual data, but you are trying to mimic it. Try to have a look at the connectors and the simulation aspects that we have discussed. In case there are questions, we can catch up tomorrow. Any other questions? No questions for now. I think that is all from my side as well. Thank you. Thanks for joining. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.